Wow, they really think it's okay not to share their HIV status with their partners. Today, we're going to be reacting to a video by Deviant. It's a really good interview with Raheem. So Raheem talks about his safety on set. Now, Raheem actually just won a reward, so it's so funny that this video has came up in my feed and me talking about this. Shout out to him. He's a really, really nice guy. He spoke to me once on Grindr, and I know it was him because he proved it was him. He gave me some really good advice. I asked for advice and he gave me some really, really good advice. So shout out to him. He's a really nice guy. And this video isn't to attack him or anything like that. I'm just critiquing certain things and adding to the conversation that they are having on this guy's channel.
How do you make certain that, or how do you all on set make certain that like your sexual health is taken care of? And I guess I can caveat this and say that I have friends who you've worked with before, and they tell me like, oh yeah, I'm about to go work with Raheem, and like he makes certain that, you know, we get our checkups before we go on set. Yeah. So like, yeah, I mean, tell us about that.
I mean, with OnlyFans, it's two different worlds, studio and content creation. Mm-hmm. Let me not just say OnlyFans, but there's also Just for Fans.
I mean, it's really good that he's showing real sex positivity, not the fake kind, the real one when it's like, okay, I want y'all to get tested, I want to know your stats, etc. Where I'm assuming he's getting tested as well. So it's really good that he has this, because a lot of OF creators do not have this. Now, the issue with this is not knowing someone's history that you're collaborating. And I don't know how they do this. I don't know if they have a set rules or they just pick anyone. Because you might get with Jimmy, right? And Jimmy gets a test tomorrow, but the day before you even spoken to Jimmy, the day before the test, Jimmy was already playing with Tommy, and Tommy had an STD and now passed it to Jimmy. Because a lot of these OF stars are not following the protocol that corn stars follow, which is every 3 weeks get tested, and then I think it's every month or I forgot, they also get tested for HIV because there's a time limit on some viruses and diseases, etc. So yes, it's every 3 weeks, because that's usually the time frame when a STD will show up in your blood, in your swabs, etc. So yeah, there is a big risk with that, especially if a performer isn't really following his performer role and being safe and, okay, I'm not gonna do anything with anyone because I'm in this career and we all should be protecting each other. They're all pretty much self-centered and inconsiderate, majority of them, and not all of them are going to be thinking like that, because again, we are dealing with men. We are very crazy, man, when it comes to you know what. It is still good though that he is doing it, so if something happens, they can catch it and take medication when necessary. But obviously, I am curious if his tests include herpes simplex 1 and herpes simplex 2, because a lot of the STD panels, all the STD panels do not have it. It's an extra add-on you have to ask for. So I am curious if he has that in his little test situation that he's doing.
And for my fans. It's just the OnlyFans is the biggest. I mean, it really, when it comes to content creation, the responsibility really falls on the creator. You can't really dictate, like, I mean, you can say, I want to see your tests. I want to see, but you know what? Let me say this to someone. A person can give you their test results and literally that night go out and sleep with someone and like,
exactly, just what we were just talking about. Like, there are a lot of people, yeah, they can show you their test results, but last night they just did something with someone. And people are really not that smart. They literally think if they have a test the next day, it will show them if they had something from the person the previous night. No, you have to wait 2 to 3 weeks to see something, and maybe for some people it's even longer, but the general rule is around 2 to 3 weeks.
I always tell people the most important thing is that you are on top of your own health. Yeah. So it's like me and my partner, like straight up to the talent testing, which gives you your results the very next day. Yeah, we try it for once a week. Yeah.
Okay. No, I love that. I think that's incredible that y'all have this talent testing, but I also really I fuck with your notion of just like every person is responsible for their own, like we're adults at the end of the day. Like you have got to be in charge of your own body, your own health. And I think that's even a campaign, like My Body, My Health. But it's so true. I think even just being like a sex positive.
Yes, it is very true. And not only that, I do wonder if you could sue someone if they gave you something. Like, I'm one of those people, I've been debating in my head, you know what, I should pull up a legal form and tell them to sign it the date we did something, and if I catch something, I'm suing you. But it will be hard to sue someone because you don't know if they had a partner after that, etc. You know, there's really no way to bite someone back in the ass for giving you something.
Person, like, that is definitely a notion that I have, is like, you know, most people, I don't know about most people, I'm not use blanket statements like that, but I know that myself, I don't like to use condoms.
No, I think you do in this day and age.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And now that, you know, we have things like, you know, PrEP that can like help us, you know, not contract HIV or antivirals that can make certain that if we
takes away the fear, yeah.
You know, so HIV is no longer like a fear like it once used to be. It causes us to...
And see, this is the thing. It is really good that it takes away the fear. And we shouldn't even be living in fear. For example, I use rubber. I use protection. And I do not... When I hook up with someone, I'm not in fear. As long as I got their test results, I know them. I've had communication with them. I know how they are. I know their history. Then I feel safe. And it has worked with me so far. And I'm still negative. The problem with this guy is that there's so many other things that you can get. For example, herpes simplex 1 and herpes simplex 2. And not that we should be living in fear, but it's an inconvenience. If you get that and you have outbreaks, it is such an inconvenience. You're not going to be able to have peanut butter as much as you wanted before. For some people, you might not be able to eat protein shakes. Like, do you know how annoying that will be, an inconvenience that would be? And to have medication or supplements all the time to suppress it, it's just annoying. Like, I would not want to live like that and have such an inconvenience. See, I have a feeling that this guy's probably asymptomatic, because if he's doing it raw and he has no outbreaks and he can talk like that, it just makes me think that he's most likely asymptomatic, or maybe he's on some suppressive medication or supplementation. But yeah, that is a big concern. You know, yes, we don't have something that kills us, but we can have something that could affect our lives, make it inconvenience, and not only that, extremely painful if we are one of the unlucky ones that have painful outbreaks. I don't know if I told you guys in my previous video, I have a friend in Thailand. He does have HIV and herpes simplex 2. And he has scars on his backside from it. So he's very insecure because of that, unfortunately. As well as that, his brain swells when he gets an outbreak there. He is one of the ones that have extremely bad outbreaks and symptoms because of it. Obviously, not everyone's like that, but there are some people out there like that.
To, you know, feel comfortable not having protected sex, right? Not using condoms, at least. But there's other ways that we can protect ourselves.
There are a lot more ways to protect yourself as well from herpes simplex 1, herpes simplex 2. And there's so people don't talk about it. I'm so excited to share that with you guys. I'm going to share it in the next video.
That's, you know, using lubricants so there's not, you know, less tearing. Simply asking somebody not to come inside of you, you know.
Or even asking a person for their recent test results.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's also a thing for a person not to take offense.
People get so offended when you ask them these tests. That has been my experience. People getting offended, or people not being able to afford these tests, because in some countries it does cost a lot of money. I'm here in Vietnam and I lived in Mexico for 4 years. And Mexico, in Playa del Carmen, for example, the cost of these STD testing is a lot. Now, if they're on PrEP or something, I think it's less, or they get it for free if they're on some program thing. But it doesn't even include everything in the test, so they still have to fork out money to get the swabs, to get the syphilis, the chlamydia. So Yeah, people either get really offended or they think that, oh, they're clear because they had a HIV test and people just only concerned about HIV and not the other ones that are out there, or they're just not educated enough. I don't know. But yeah, I've had an OF star in Mexico basically give me a whole attitude and block me because I asked him to get tested. And he's like, I could just get anyone. You think I'm gonna go and get tested? Bro, really?
Or get defensive when someone asks for that, because you really can't be offended by someone like being conscious of their own health.
Yeah.
Especially in such an intimate situation.
Facts. You can't get offended when someone takes responsibility and value their health and they want to be health conscious. You can't get mad at people like that.
Let me ask you, like, again, I know off camera, it can feel awkward as fuck having to ask somebody, like, and I'm gonna say this, off camera and off of apps, because I feel like people are bold as fuck on apps. You know, on apps they like,
I mean, do people even,
So I use Chat GPT. They're like, hey, can you give me the best way I can ask someone for their stats? And they give me like a little cool paragraph. Chat GPT is the best, but I usually are like, yeah, man, this, and if they say, oh, I don't have it, or this, or they have some excuse, I just say, hey, okay, no test, no sex, you know? And I'm gonna be quite honest with you, when you live this lifestyle of health consciousness and you really value your health and you're really taking care of yourself, you're not going to have sex as much as you probably would want to. So yes, be prepared for that, be prepared for that. Saying that, you are most likely best off getting a friends with benefits. They are so much safer.
Do people really ask anymore?
I feel like in the apps,
do they really?
I feel like in the apps, people are so rude. They use, I hate the language of clean.
Yeah,
because it insinuates dirty.
That too, yeah.
So I feel like in the apps, people are like extra bold, where I know we're in person, it's just fucking awkward to be like, hey, so I know we're here and we came here to fuck, and you know, I might be naked already and lubed up my ass and I ate all day, but what's your HIV status?
Yeah. You want to avoid that situation. You don't want to go through that. You want to do it on the app, okay? You do it on the app because you're going to discover how this person is. You're going to ask questions, and there's specific questions you want to ask. And I'm going to have to do a video, how to safely hook up on Grindr, okay? That's going to be the video title for the next video. But there are ways to go through to make sure that you can at least have 99% chance of not getting something. But people are rude online, but no one has ever asked me for my status online. It has always been me.
Bitch, what? Are you really going to like say no? Like at this point, like there's so many questions. But yeah, like what, you know, again, I guess like hats off to you that you actually, you know, have created an environment where it's like comfortable and confident to just ask somebody. And I agree. Like I think that ask, it can deter somebody who either doesn't know their status, maybe having complications, you know.
But you know, some people lie. There's a lot of people that just lie.
Yes, guys do lie. They either lie or they don't know the standards of safety practices. For example, a lot of guys don't know about herpes simplex 1 and herpes simplex 2 not being included in their STD panel, especially in America. Because I have guys in America that when we get to that stage, let's hook up, oh, what's your status? Oh, I'm clean. I'm like, cool, can I see your results? Here's mine. They go, oh yeah, my doctor rung me and said I was clean. Have herpes 1 and 2, and they be telling me, no, I don't, I'm clean. And I'm like, yeah, you really thought that was included in your panel, huh? It's not. But see, people are so uneducated, they think that their doctor has the best interest in them and tests for everything, does all the swabbing. But your doctor doesn't. Your doctor wants to make a quick buck. You need to go to a professional laboratory, pay more, and get proper tests if you're gonna be in this lifestyle and you want to stay safe.
I mean, unfortunate, but there are some people that lie. That's why I always tell people, know who you're dealing with. It's not a bad thing to ask your friends, do you know?
Yes, good advice from Raheem. Ask your friends, do you know about this guy? Do you know his history? Do you know what he's like? Shout out to Raheem for giving that. That's a really good advice.
About this person. Yeah. And even in the world of content creation, I mean, I know that I do a lot of videos that are group scenes and whatnot. So I have no ill feelings about someone saying, okay, well, let me make sure that he's on top of his health.
Right.
So if someone asks me for a test, I'll literally go out that day and get the But it's also, there's nothing wrong with looking at the content that a person puts out and saying, okay, I have to be conscious of this.
Exactly. So for Raheem, for example, he does a lot of raw. So you kind of have to assume that most likely Raheem and this gentleman sitting here most likely have herpes simplex 1, herpes simplex 2. You can just safely assume that they probably have it. And you most likely, and you're at a risk of maybe catching the other STDs. You're at a risk of getting that due to how many people they are being intimate with, and just the fact, the nature of it, the BB scenes.
Yeah. Because your content is a reflection of who you are.
Okay.
It really is.
I like that point. I never thought about it like that. Yeah. Especially as we talk about like the delineation of like who you are and what you do with your work. But I guess I want to make this point though too. I love making statements that might get me canceled. I guess that's like my thing. So
this face, you ain't getting canceled. All right, but, you ain't getting canceled.
I definitely want to make this delineation. I have what may be a controversial opinion, specifically around HIV. Now that it is not a death sentence, that is one of those things where I don't advise people that you have to share your status each and every time. I think that there is so much stigma attached to HIV that it is irresponsible to ask somebody to disclose to each person, each partner that they have, especially if they can and do want to have casual sex. They should be able, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, this is not the anything of any entity, but I think that going back to the notion of being responsible for...
I disagree with him. I think it's so important to disclose what you have. And since you have it, why not educate that person? I think it's so good to educate that person. Okay, well, this is what it is. I'm on these medications, so there's no viral pass load. If you feel more comfortable, we can use a condom. And if that person doesn't want to do it anymore, then I think that's okay. You gave them a choice, and choices are important. So I think it's important to definitely disclose that, even though if your viral load is low, you're on medication, it's so important to let people know. Saying that, I think it's also important for people to ask. And the thing is, no one asks, especially on these hookup apps. No one is asking about people's statuses. So there's that.
Our own health, like knowing what resources are afforded to us. You can be HIV positive, but taking your antivirals regularly. And we know that if you're undetectable, you're also untransmittable. So why then should you have to disclose that to somebody who might be ignorant or, of that fact, or might be, riddled with their own shame and their own stigma, and now like put that shit on you? My thoughts and theories as a sex positive person is that like, for the complications that actually can get transmitted, the things like chlamydia, syphilis, gonorrhea, herpes, like those are the things that I think need to be asked about.
That's really interesting that he brought that up. They're the things that I think should be asked about. So I am curious, does he have it? Probably most likely if he does BB. He just said he doesn't like using protection, so I'm assuming he does. Curious to have that conversation with someone like that, especially if someone in the OF community.
And also that cause complications that a person typically, I'm saying typically because not always, will feel. If you're burning when you pee, baby, let me know. If you got a bump somewhere, baby, let me know before we go into it. But I don't think that HIV is that, should have that same notion, especially in today's day and age.
Well, let me say, I have a better chance of being canceled than you. Okay. But no, I'm in the same boat when it comes to that. I mean, I feel like there are so many avenues that we can take to avoid contracting.
Yes, but again, I think it's still important to inform the person and let that person have the choice, I don't really understand why people just don't want to disclose it. Like, is it really going to harm you if you disclose it to someone? Like, what's the worst that can happen, especially if you educate someone on it? It's really annoying to educate someone on it. For example, when I got misdiagnosed for herpes simplex 1, and for a couple of months I thought I had it and I never did. And I found out I never did, like, tests later, and still to this day it's negative. When I thought I had it, I disclosed that to people, even though I know most people have it. And I educated them, like, so have you ever had a cold sore before? And they'll be like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool, you got herpes. Me too. Anyway, that's how the discussion came. But I never end up having it, which is so interesting. It's so funny how that played out. But I did meet people that didn't want to pursue me because of it. I met people that thought herpes was HPV, and they're like, oh yeah, I got a vaccine for it. I'm like, bro, that's for HPV, that's not for herpes. So yeah, it was such a good experience going through that. I was so glad I went through that experience because I learned so much and came so much smarter. And now I'm not living in fear of it. I just don't want to get it because it would be such an inconvenience and annoying.
HIV. Yeah. And especially with the world being the way it is now, especially with social media, that it's such a private thing for a person who has it to go through and deal with. Yeah. That you really can't relate having not gone through it. The risk of it getting out to the general public, and there is still a stigma attached to it. Like, I do feel it's unfair to put a person in that place to have to, even if there are promiscuous.
You know, I've had friends and ex-partners that have had it, and I hear the stories and what they go through. And I understand to have that information out there, the stigma and all that, that still doesn't give you, in my opinion, the right to not let someone know that you have that. But I understand that a lot of those guys run with the mentality, well, if they don't ask, why should I care? They probably have it too. Let's do it. Controversial subject, and I think letting someone know is very important. I think you should be comfortable and live in your truth. And if people do put it out there that you have it, screw them. And I understand it is really unfortunate how people are. There are a lot of people out there who are not like you or me, who understand HIV, and it's not going, like, you're not gonna do something with someone and boom, you get it. Like, it just, especially if you're using protection, especially if they're on antivirals. But at the same time, it's not fair, and you do have to tell the person and let them have that choice. Why not just educate them on it? But I guess some people don't want to have that responsibility, but you should. You never had the responsibility of protecting yourself before, so now you should have the responsibility of letting other people know. I think if you're all about sex positivity, you're all about the gay community, the LGBTQ, liqua, however you want to say it, you should be open enough to share it with your fellow brothers and sisters and educate them on the situation.
Like I said, there's too many avenues that we have to force a person who's positive to be forced to disclose their status to everyone they have sexual relations with.
And that's one shortcoming, I would say, of the healthcare industry that I think they've had, is like pushing that message of, like, it's one thing to know your status, but like I feel like the caveat is there's been this kind of notion of, like, share your status, and
there is so many shortcomings to the that industry. I can't even begin. That's just one. Well, I don't think that's one, but there's so many others out there, like the Disease Control Center. Is that what they called? I'll put the label there. They irritate me to the bone, okay? That will have to be a whole nother video. And they carry a lot of stigma and spread that to the world like wildfire. But let's continue.
Yeah, you know what? It's... yeah, I feel like this. If you're uncomfortable with a person who is positive, let it be known from the outright. And I feel it's the respectful and responsible thing to do if the person that they're seeing after hearing that doesn't disclose or goes through with it anyway. But yeah, I'm not on board with forcing people to. It's almost like, I mean, I hate to use the comparison, but it's almost like forcing people, you know, the X-Men to disclose that they're a mutant.
That is a pretty bad comparison. I feel like if you are uncomfortable with someone who does have that, then yeah, you should definitely not go through with it, you know? A lot of people feel like after a hookup, they go somewhere, they planned all day, they're like, ugh, I don't like this guy, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Guys, thank you so much for subscribing and leaving your comments. I really appreciate it, and reading your comments is really cool. Having this discussion with you guys and sharing our experiences and meeting like-minded people like me too, who are like conscious and stuff. It's just really good to see